Good morning, YouTubers, and welcome once again to the Stinkbug Works, where we're working on the single step hydro challenge, the JetStepper. So anyway, I've covered this thing with paper mache. We're going to talk about that in a bit. And I want to talk first about getting the motor and drive shaft in there. One of the reasons I opted for this motor, remember, is to try to flatten out the angle of the shaft here. Now, what you want to achieve in order to get this thing to ride properly is you want the edge of this step level with the center of your prop. That way the thing will be at the appropriate angle of attack and it'll all be good. So what I did is I took a scrap piece of plastic, put it up against here, marked on there with the pencil. You can see the mark if you really zoom in there. I marked on there with the pencil where that is. Put the shaft in, kind of poked a hole with a tool here, a pick, and got it sort of close. And you notice I'm not using the stuffing tube, I'm using the drive shaft itself. That way it gives me room. If I need to move the hole up or down, as I enlarge it to fit this, I can move it in that direction. And so I've taped this on, and I can see that as I set the motor on here, I can see that my little template's just a wee bit high. So I need to move my hole that way a little bit to close that gap. So I'll pull all this off, and as I enlarge the hole for this, I'll do it as I'll move it up as I do that. So there you go. Now let's talk about this drive shaft I got from England. I bought several of these some time ago, and I think I have another one of this same size. Okay, so as I got to looking at it, it's just a threaded 2mm shaft. Now you can get these from TFL in China. TFL takes forever and a day to ship. So if you wanted to use that, but you can get these, and they're cheap. They're like $1 or so. And then as I began to study this is nothing more than a K&S tube with what appears to be a little short piece, maybe that long, of Teflon tube. Now that Teflon tube in Europe is called Bowden, B-O-W-D-E-N, Bowden tube. And it's available in a bunch of sizes, and I've seen it in 3mm outside diameter, 2mm inside diameter, and I'm thinking that's what's in here. So to save money, you could go to K&S, get some 4mm tubing, in this case aluminum, to save some weight. And if you can get, I ordered a bit of this stuff. This is too big, but if I can find the right size Teflon tube, that would work great. Another choice would be to just get the next size smaller brass tube and stick a little short piece in there, yay long, to serve as a bearing. The one thing I don't like about it is I don't like having brass with aluminum because you get bimetal electrolysis. But if you use brass and brass, that would be cool. So there's some thoughts on a cheap drive shaft. You could get away with one stick of this and the 3mm outside, and as much as the 4mm as you want to build. If you want to build a fleet of boats like I am over there, get a couple of sticks of 4mm. I guess it comes a couple in a package. I don't know. So there's thinking on that. Let's talk about the covering. As you can see, I've put the paper mache covering on, and I was going to be real slick and have the covering match, you know. So what I did was the same thing as I did on this boat. I first covered it and lightly attached the covering, and then I cut open the hatch. This I used silk span on so I could see the joint. On this one, I couldn't quite see the joint, and I started cutting it out with this dental tool I have here. And I'm going in here with this dental tool, and I went off track a little bit. But you know what? Being foam, it's easy to repair. So my advice when covering this, forget trying to be cool. You're not trying to be cool, you're trying to be cheap. You want to do it for 99 cents, not $3.99. Yeah, that's my sick sense of humor. Anyway, make sure too you have something that you can grab a hold of your hatch to open it. Now what's going to happen, you notice how tight that sounded? I'm going to sand this and put some more sealant on it and sand it and some more sealant. And then once it's kind of fits like this, I'll shoot it with some clear enamel, not lacquer. And by then, all these surfaces will have been painted in gesso to protect them. And again, with the clear, just a light misting, a light misting, a light misting, a light misting, and until you build it up. And that should protect the foam. This, you notice I got glue and all that stuff down on the bottom. Don't worry about it. A wet paper towel will take this stuff right off. In fact, it doesn't stick very well to the unsanded plastic. So, you know, a wet sponge, and there you go. So we're getting close to running this thing. I'm going to use a standard 9-gram servo just because I have them. If I were building a competition boat and going all out, first of all, I wouldn't use the paper mache because I think it's a little heavier. And if I were going all out competition, I'd use a lighter servo. A 3.7-gram servo probably have enough torque for this thing. And I think I've got a 450 milliamp 3S pack that I can run this on. Again, if you wanted to save weight, I would consider 3 of those little 1S packs that the Blade helicopter and its clones run on, and just, you know, tie them all together in a series harness. You know, those harnesses I showed you wherever they are. I put them away already. And then just tie up the batteries in series and stick them in there. You know, maybe carve some little holes in here and tape them in place with the leads coming off. That would be kind of cool. So there's the latest thinking on that. And then my next power choice could be this. You know, if I'm going to keep up with Big B, the problem is, do you guys remember the old limited spec hydros, LSH? And then they actually had a limited spec offshore LSO class, years and years ago, and it ran a Speed 700 motor. Well, this motor is real close to that class. That class actually wound up using the SV27 motor, and the SV27, I think, was 1800 kV, and this thing is, what does it say here? 1850. So they're real close to each other, and that may be why Steve made all these motors. These motors, by the way, get a load of this. Get a load of this. These motors, just like this, with the water jacket, 5mm shaft, it is actually a 1312. Normally, Steve's motor has a machined end bell. This he made a bunch of motors for a boat project that never panned out, and it's a stamped motor case like so many Chinese motors. But so it's a stamped motor case with a removable end bell here, and so that's how he cut the price. Now, how much do you think you would pay for a new motor, a Steve new motor with a water jacket and all that? How does $50 sound? That's right, folks. Steve is selling these things for $50. It would make a good limited spec motor in a 1/12 scale hydro on 4S. It would make a screamer in a sport hydro on 6S. So just some thoughts for you guys. $50. $50. Anyway, until next time, jet out.